Okay, welcome. You're in the battleground. It's Monday, 8 August, year of our Lord 2022. Big day tomorrow, both in Minnesota and Wisconsin. Let's go out to Wisconsin's 63rd Assembly District and Adam Steen. He is the Trump-endorsed candidate. In fact, I would respectfully submit it was one of the principal reasons that President Trump went to Wisconsin for the amazing rally the other night. Adam, walk me through the basic case against Voss. What is the case against him?
He has decided that the party is more important than the people, Steve. That's the short and sweet of it. He has stopped listening, and he no longer wants to do.
And what do you mean? He's put party over the people. Be specific. What do you mean by that?
So we have an election that happened in the state of Wisconsin. There's widespread voter fraud that's been proven very clearly. And he has chosen to tell the people that we need to elect a Republican governor and a Republican attorney general, and all of our problems will be solved, Steve. And I believe that's not the answer. I believe that we can fix this problem.
So walk us through that. What do you propose? Because they've been sitting there. I think Voss has said almost from the beginning, correct me if I'm wrong, that it's unconstitutional. I think he admits, doesn't he, that there was widespread voter fraud, that Biden, in fact, didn't win, Trump won, but there's nothing he can do about it. Is that it?
That's exactly right. So he said that there was issues that happened that took place, and we are going to solve those issues by electing a Republican governor and a Republican attorney general. And to me, as a assemblyman, my job is to write the bills that get passed as law. So we have laws in Wisconsin, and those laws were broken, but there's no consequences, and he knows that. And I truly believe that we have a system that is set up so that cheating can continue to happen without any consequences.
Let's go through that. What do you mean that it's still set up that cheating can go on? What do you mean?
So right now, Chapter 9, or the statute, very clearly written where we see what laws were broken in our election system. First of all, the drop boxes are very clearly wrong. There's only two methods of delivering your ballot back to be counted. That's through the mail or in person to your clerk. And Robin Voss said, well, we've got to let the courts decide what the law says, as opposed to we're going to follow the law and let the left sue us. So he has done what every Republican has done and just stayed just to the right of the left so that he can say he is a Republican. And as conservatives, I truly believe that we need to follow the Constitution first and allow the left to sue us.
Go back through. Is it the Gableman report? I mean, what do you base your belief? I mean, I know I've got mine because we've been at this from the beginning. But what do you base your belief that the 2020 election in Wisconsin was essentially stolen or given to Joe Biden? He didn't actually win it. When you talk to your constituents, what do you specifically tell them it's the Gableman report? I mean, what evidence and facts do you point to?
So if we start with the Gableman report, my great-grandmother passed away at 102 years old at our house. And for me to watch the elderly be mistreated the way that they were and their votes be cast for them, I believe that's completely unethical and immoral. So, first of all, we went from a 30% up to a 95% participation rate.
But hang on. You cite, I got that, but you cite the Gableman report. Do you cite things that were presented to the Supreme Court of Wisconsin? Because that minority report, when you say that, I got it, the nursing homes. But what evidence do you actually cite that somebody can go and click on and see it?
So we cite the Gableman report. They can read the 140-page document. And then we also cite the drop boxes. So when the ballot drop boxes were used in our election, there was around 250,000 ballots that were cast. When those ballots were cast, whether they were legal or illegal, when they were put in that drop box, that is not a method of delivery that is stated in our Constitution. So to me, that's a huge, huge win for the state of Wisconsin.
When these other Republicans, they're on Fox all the time, you see them all over saying elections are about the future, you can't go back and change the past. When you're out in the 63rd Assembly District and talking to constituents, and talk about your plans and what you want to do. What did they say about your maniacal focus on Robin Voss's failures, your perceived his failures of really getting to the bottom of 3 November? Did they tell you that the elections are about the future? You can't do both at the same time, or they say, hey, you're just stirring up things that are not going to get changed?
Well, what I tell people is we can solve our elections in 8 simple words. It's in person, on paper, hand count, one day. And I believe that process happened up until the 90s, and I believe we can return to that process. So when I'm talking to people and telling them that I'd like to see their vote actually count and cast clearly and concisely so that they know that their ballot had value, they are extremely, extremely excited about that potential, as opposed to my opponent who wants to see the status quo continue. So they are extremely happy and excited to have a discussion about moving forward. But we can't move forward if we don't go back and fix what happened in 2020.
Adam, do you believe that if you're elected and you replace Robin Voss, and by the way, it'll be one of the biggest events of tomorrow if that were to happen, given his prominence in Wisconsin. Do you believe, could you commit to your constituents that you will actually work nonstop to try to decertify the Biden electors from the 2020 presidential campaign?
Well, funny you mentioned that. Back in May, I had that same question posed to me by the Washington Post, and my response hasn't changed. I believe AJR 120 was a litmus test. As a representative of the people, I believe it is my job to cast a vote in their behalf. And Robin Voss doesn't want to see that happen. So I would be one vote, and based on the constituents that I've talked to, I would definitely vote to decertify and bring back the electors from 2020. After that, it takes 99 other people in the assembly to vote in a roll call vote to determine how the state of Wisconsin would move forward.
Adam, how do people follow you in this critical 24 hours? Because this is going to be one that's not just watched in the United States, but all over the world. What is your social media and what's your website?
It is. Please follow my website. It's Steen, STEEN, FORUS, steenforus.com. We've got our link to Facebook, Getter, Instagram, Twitter, Truth Social. They're all there right on the website. But Steve, to me, the most important part is Robin Voss has chosen not to stand on his accomplishments, but to belittle and lie about the values that I have. He's told people that that I don't want the military to vote, but what I'm more importantly stating is he has spent probably 5 times the amount of money that I have spent on this campaign trying to put me down instead of standing on his own 2 feet. So I would love for folks to go to the website, hit the donate button, and just drop $5 or $10 in there so we can push this last 24 hours and get the message out there that the person that I'm running against is plain, flat out lying in order to try to accomplish something and hold a seat that he's had for the last 20 years because he doesn't have a track record that's willing to be stood upon so that he can actually fight face to face.
Adam, thank you for joining us. I know our entire War Room posse and cadre will be all over this, so thank you very much. Look forward
Excellent.
to talking
Thanks
to you
so
tomorrow.
Much. Yep, have a great day, Steve.
Want to go now. We've got Jay Schroeder is going to join us in a second. He's running for Secretary of State, that critical position in Wisconsin. But I want to go to Judge Gableman. Judge, when I met you a year ago, I think actually today or close to it.
Wow.
A year ago in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And you were just getting started then. Did you believe at the time when you took that mandate and started that your report would get to be, I don't know if controversial or really an inciting incident and such action, that you would have people like Jay Schroeder, you would have people like Adam Steen, you would have, and people throughout the country and the world talking about what happened in Wisconsin and how outrageous it was? Did you believe at the time when you started that you would unearth the types of facts and evidence that you did?
You know, to be honest, Steve, first of all, thank you for having me on, and thank you for your laser beam and an extraordinarily valuable service of focusing on this issue. You are a true patriot, and you are helping to save this country from those who would turn it into something other than a democracy. So thank you. I had no idea what I was going to find. I had no idea, really. I went into it, and honestly, as I told Speaker Voss at our first meeting after he hired me, I've known Robin for 12, 14 years, something like that. But at our first meeting, I honestly said, my hope is that I can study everything and do a thorough investigation, and then I can come back to the people of this state and tell them that everything was fine. Everything was run according to law, and everything was fine. Instead, what I found was systematic corruption.
Hold on, hang on. I want to make sure, because this dovetails the conversation you had with me. You came at this with no preconceived notions. There have been a lot of stuff in the media, obviously a very intense fight, but you came at this with no preconceived notions. Given your time on the bench, you were going to go and just see where the evidence laid, right?
Not just my time on the You know, Steve,
go ahead, sir.
It's so important for me. And when I was attacked by some of the crazy Democrats on the committee, the Campaigns and Elections Committee, when I presented my report on March 1st, and I presented for 3.5 hours, and I finally had to interrupt the one from downtown Madison, whose name I don't recall. And I had to say, you know, I know you've been here in the Capitol for 3 years or whatever it was. I've devoted my entire career, 30 years of my life to public service. And I have been blessed. I have been given many blessings from God, but in terms of my career, from my days as an assistant district attorney, working my way up to district attorney and circuit court judge, and then on the Wisconsin Supreme Court, my only job has been to do what's right under the law. And so when I took this mission from Robin Voss about a year ago, that was one more mission that I could do because it's so important for me to keep things not hidden, things in government and that affect the actual lives of citizens and their best interests. We should treat our fellow citizens as adults, and we shouldn't run on one thing and deceive our voters into thinking that we're going to conduct ourselves one way, but then once we get elected, conduct ourselves another way and vote against and act against the things that the people believed us when we said we were going to do. So this was, I'm sorry to interrupt, Steve, but it's not just based on a few 10 years on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. It's a 30-year career based on doing what's right under the laws.
Judge, when you found this evidence, you went back to Robin Voss. I think one of the big controversies, at least as I see it, is the how detailed your report is, how explosive your report is, particularly when you compare it. We're going to have Jay Schroeder on here in a minute, who's running for this position, Secretary of State.
I have endorsed him, Steve.
Exactly.
I hope he.
That's why I wanted to have you on first. Yeah. But here's the thing: is that it was so against existing Wisconsin statute and law.
Yeah.
Why did Robin Voss not embrace the report and really take it to? You didn't do a report just to do a report.
You know
Wisconsin has a reputation. The citizens up there have a reputation, whether they're liberal or Republican or conservative, of being, not just Wisconsin nice, but also very straight, very by the book, very by the rules. You have some of the tightest election laws in the country, sir. Why did Robin Voss get this explosive report and just kind of shrug his shoulders?
I know what he told me, and I know what I believe, and they're two different things. What he told me was that he didn't think that the election integrity issue was going to be a successful political platform for either he or other Republicans to run on, and therefore he wanted to minimize all discussion and all conduct on it before the election. What I believe, Steve, the more I've seen him in action, I've known him for a long time, but I really got to know him in this last year. And that's why I have endorsed, along with President Trump, I've endorsed Robin's opponent, Adam Steen. And I spent the last 2 days going door to door in Robin's district, asking his constituents to vote for his opponent, Adam Steen, because I told him Adam's not a politician. Adam's going to do what he thinks is right, and he's going to tell you the truth. Robin Voss has spent 30 years at the Capitol, 10 as a staffer, and 28, so not 30, 10 as a staffer, and then another 18 as a state representative. He built the Wisconsin Election Commission. He oversaw the implementation of all the odious apparatus that the Wisconsin Election Commission put to use to steal the election from, and I'm not even going to say from a particular candidate. I'm going to say they stole it from the voters and the good citizens of the state of Wisconsin. And I know the Democrats are happy because their guy got in. Well, someday that machinery of the Wisconsin elections and their willingness, their eagerness to violate the law will come back to bite them unless we substantively change it, which Robin also is against. He said he wants to keep the Wisconsin Election Commission in place. As I told the legislature during my 3.5-hour presentation on March 1st, the Wisconsin Election Commission, especially with its current director, Megan Wolf, who is simply taking all of the policies of her terrible partisan leftist predecessor, Kevin Kennedy, who is on a George Soros-funded board along with David Becker. If your listeners and viewers don't know the name David Becker, if you live in one of 33 states that subscribe to the Electronic Registration Information Center, otherwise known as ERIC, David Becker, this man funded by George Soros and Mark Zuckerberg, David Becker has more influence over who the names on your voter rolls than anybody in your state. He's a man you've never heard of, but he has tremendous power. And by keeping the Wisconsin Election Commission alive and not being willing to just simply dismantle it, and there is precedent for dismantling. When Kevin Kennedy ran that Government Accountability Board into the ground doing a crazy far left scheme to invent a law to take out Scott Walker, which I am proud to have written the opinion. The one newspaper article I keep is the one you can see over my right shoulder. That's when the Wall Street Journal said that, in my opinion, beating back the Government Accountability Board's, the WEC predecessors' efforts to drive out Scott Walker from office by making up a law, that Mike Gableman restored democracy to Wisconsin. Well, I did it. I helped. I don't take credit. I don't take full credit. My God, I had 3 very brave members of the Wisconsin Supreme Court with me. So I don't take the credit,
okay. But Judge Gableman, here's what I don't understand. You talk about the WEC, where Schroeder's going to talk about this, the WC. You talk about the account. You talk about this. The Supreme Court this year is going to take on this situation in North Carolina to actually make a judgment on what we call independent state legislatures. One of the big controversies, and I keep saying, hey, all this nonsense J6 going through, they ought to look at the electoral count of 1887. The state legislatures are the key. How did this get so far off track in a state where there's always had very tight voting laws? Yeah. And so now we're in a situation, you've got a report, but you got the WC saying this, you got this saying that. How did that happen without any citizens of Wisconsin stand up, but more importantly, Republicans banging on the table saying this is essentially unconstitutional at its heart, is going to lead to a mess, as it has, to the humiliation of the state of Wisconsin?
You had very rich and powerful men come in, not just to Wisconsin, but to other states. You had George Soros, and then more recently, Mark Zuckerberg. But in between, you had very willing bureaucrats. Kevin Kennedy worked there for 30 years, and he was a leftist all the way. But they had the support. They had the support of the terrible leftist newspaper, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. So they had all sorts of public support, and my breath continues to be taken away at the willingness of things like the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel being willing to lie in order to protect their political advances. And so that's one end of it, Steve. But then on the second end of it, You had legislators, I believe, like Robin Voss, who took a look at the harsh criticism they would receive if they stood up to the corruption of the Wisconsin election system, that they were going to get hammered. They were going to get hammered in the press. And so many of them, Steve, as you know, and this is how we get this pathetic, terrible thing like the J6 committee, because we've got politicians who view their public office as a life-hold tenancy, when our founders just meant it to be a point of service that you'd go and do and then let somebody else do it. So you have these politicians who are afraid of the media criticism they're going to take. And I know for you, for a brave man and a courageous man such as you, Steve, that's hard for you to get your head around, that you got people who are so afraid of media criticism that they're going to run and they're going to do things they know are wrong. They're going to do things that they know are against their constituents' best interests, like allow the Wisconsin Election Commission. They're running wild. Finally, we had 4 members of the Wisconsin Supreme Court on July 8 in the Teagan case with the ballot drop boxes. Finally, we had 4 members. We got 3 very courageous women on that court, and I was glad to see that Justice Hagedorn joined them in determining. And then the story from the left and the apologists for Wisconsin Election Commission, even some so-called Republicans, because remember, they're afraid, they said, well, that just means that going forward, these drop boxes are illegal, that we can't do anything looking back. When in fact, there was nothing in that opinion. If they're illegal today, they were illegal yesterday, they were illegal in November of 2020. They shouldn't have been there. I believe they facilitated fraud and a stolen election. So don't tell me that was their story. And of course, the media went along with it. Well, that means going forward that you can't use drop boxes. No, that means you shouldn't have used drop boxes then either.
You've endorsed, you have this explosive report. You've endorsed Adam Steen taking on Speaker Voss in his assembly district. You've endorsed our next guest, Jay Schroeder. Is the election of Jay Schroeder going to set things right? Is Jay Schroeder going to have the power to get his hands around this? Because I think the question the nation wants to have answered is Wisconsin, of all, even Arizona and Georgia, Wisconsin is the ticking time bomb because it's so obvious to prove how they stole it. Is Wisconsin going to be the lead in the first state to actually decertify? I'm not saying flip to Trump electors. I'm not saying flip the election, but to go back and say that we can't honestly have certified the Biden electors. Will Wisconsin be the first, and will Jay Schroeder's election do that?
I have not taken a position on the wisdom of decertification. I know a lot of my friends and people who support me would like me to do that, and I'll tell you why. What I've done is I've said, yes, it is legally possible. And that's, I told the truth in my report, and I included it in the report because too many in the media were trying to peddle this lie, and the WEC, Wisconsin Election Commission's apologists were trying to peddle this lie that decertification was not lawful. That's not true. It's lawful. But whether to do so and how to proceed is a purely political decision. I've tried to stick to the law on this. Now, Jay, in our state, we have a diluted power center for the election, Steve. It's the municipal clerks who are responsible for it, unlike Arizona.
I know.
Most of the other states.
The war of the clerks. Judge, we got to bounce. How do people get to you, and particularly how do people get to the report? Because it's still something people must read. How do they get to the Judge Gableman report? WIElectionfraud.com. WIElectionfraud.com. And do you have social media? What's your social media? I'm
sorry. I'm not a big social media guy.
Fine. That's okay. Fine. We'll send them to the thing. Judge Gableman, thank you. Thank you very much. You've done heroic and patriotic work. Thank you, sir. Judge Gableman up in Wisconsin. We're going to take a break, but I want to go first to Jay Schroeder. Jay, walk me through what then do you offer? What is the case that you're making tomorrow in this primary for the MAGA movement to back you?
Sure. I did a press release today. What's gotten me more involved and fired up, 10 months ago I typed in My Vote Wisconsin, my dad's name, date of birth. He's been gone 7 years. Do you know today I can still go on there, click a red icon, register to vote? We have had a private citizen do a sting operation. You can get absentee ballots from anybody around the state. All you have to have is their name, date of birth, and they'll be sent to you. The Wisconsin Election Commission, like Donald Trump says, they have to be fired. They issued an edict to our county clerks to ignore the state statutes and cure absentee ballots. Our state statutes say that the only person that can cure a ballot is the voter. So they're rogue. How they operate is, we're going to do what we want. If you don't like it, take it to the state Supreme Court. One of the things of why I'm running is there's a cabal. We have Dane County, and that's where Madison, where the
I tell you what. Hang on. Hang on for 1 second. We'll take a short commercial break. We're going to return with Jay Schroeder. He is in a tight, tough fight throwdown for Secretary of State of the great state of Wisconsin. He's Trump endorsed. We're going to return. We got Jared Majewski. We got Tina Peters in Colorado. It's all exploding this evening in the War Room.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome back. It's Monday, 8 August, year of our Lord 2022. I tell you, there are two barn burners tomorrow in Minnesota and in Wisconsin. I want to go to Jay Schroeder now. He's running for Secretary of State in the great state of Wisconsin. Tell me about the cabal. Here's what I don't get, Schroeder. You've got, the most honest citizens in the country up there in Wisconsin. I mean, just Wisconsin nice, good folks. You've always had traditionally, even though you've got a lot of progressive, they're very tight voting laws. How do you have this fiasco in the 2020 election? Tell me how it happened and what you, Jay Schroeder, are going to do about it.
Well, they ignore the state statutes. What I was saying about the cabal is the Wisconsin Election Commission is in Dane County. We have liberal socialist judges that cover for the Wisconsin Election Commission. So if you sue them, the judges cover for them. Then you got the circuit judge, they cover for them. The only way you can get anything done is go to the state Supreme Court. So they have that. So that you have to get the jurisdiction out of Dane County so you can have justice. Right now, we don't have the justice. Their modus operandi is we're going to do what we want. They ignore the state statutes. One of the commissioners on the election commission said when they waived special voting deputies, said, when do we have to start following the law again? That statement is exactly what they think, how they operate. And they were referred 5 to 6 for felony prosecution from the Racine sheriff. But that one sentence that individual said encapsulates how they think. They don't care. It's shocking to think that and to say it, but they demonstrate it over and over and over. They have an ideology. They're going to do it. They're going to get the elections. We have 265,000 that voted indefinitely confined. Well, you check that box, and you don't have to have an ID. They have it down to a system, which I think Eric Holder had talked about long ago, where you're going to go in and you're going to evaluate each state and their statutes and find loopholes and do it. That's what they did. That's what they're doing. They continue to do it. But that a commission has to be fired. All 3 major candidates running for governor want to get rid of the election commission. But you have to have something to replace it. Our founding fathers in the state of Wisconsin had it under the Secretary of State's office for 125 years. The last 40 we've had it. It's been a disaster. It gets progressively worse from one committee to the next. It used to be, before WEC, it was GAB. All they did is change 3 letters. They kept all the staff. Well, what do you expect's going to happen? It's the same thing over and over. But 33 states have it under the Secretary of State's office. The majority of the red states, I'm not an election wizard, but I'll tell you what, I know what works and you copy it. If you go back to 2000, Bush Gore, hanging chads and all that, anybody hear any problems now in Florida? It runs good. It runs smooth. We have to bring that to Wisconsin and have to have accountability. And somebody said, well, what about as Secretary of State? You might do things that are on the edge or whatever, like the Election Commission. I said, no, the difference between me and the Election Commission is I'm going to follow the state statutes. What a novel idea. And as far as that goes with the electors, Sure.
Yep. Keep going. No, keep going.
Well, one of the things that, in my interpretation of what goes on, is there's no due diligence in the 2020 election. If there was an issue where one side said there was no problem, one side is we can cite all these problems. What should have been done, they should have had a public hearing in the legislature. They should have both attorneys presented their case on each viewpoint. Then the legislature would have heard it. The legislators would have took a vote on it. The citizens would have held their individual responsible for it. That would have been due diligence. And what's going on right now is why I'm running is I want to build confidence in the elections. Everything you've heard today, every person you've talked to, all these things are taking away the confidence in our elections. And when you have that, you have a distrust of what's going on, our country, our operation.
But that's what the opposition wants. They want to break MAGA. They want people not to show up because they think their vote doesn't count. So in 90 seconds, convince this audience that Jay Schroeder is the guy that's going to actually get these elections sorted so people have confidence. Therefore, they show up. Remember, what they're trying to do is just stop 5 to 10. I got Majewski on next. I got Tina Peters on after that. The way the MAGA candidates work is 100% of MAGA has to show up. What they're trying to do is break so that 5 to 10% just says, you know what, Schroeder's a nice guy, but he can't do it. Tina Peters, she's a warrior. She can't do it. Majewski's a hammer. He can't do it. I'm not going to vote. That's the whole game here. That's what they're trying to do. So convince me right now that you're the guy that's going to make it happen.
Election integrity just isn't two words. And election integrity means get rid of the voting machines with Internet access. According to the Durham report, President Trump in the White House, his servers were hacked. Okay, we got to get rid of Internet access to the voting machines. We have to have paper ballots with watermarks, just like the currency, so you can't copy them. You have to have chain of custody. You have to have a system where you can look on your cell phone, tell where your ballot is all the time. Those things will build confidence. That's why you want to vote for Schroeder. I want to clean this up. I'm 60 years old. This isn't a hobby of mine. I want to do it to where we follow the law and the state I grew up in. Right now, these last 2 years, I don't even know where I am in this state. But by God, we're going to change it and do the right thing and follow the statutes. That's why you should vote for me. We have a vested interest in building confidence. And if they don't like it, there's other places they can go live. But I like this state. I've lived here my whole life. I'm the fourth generation. I like Wisconsin. And that's what we got to do.
Jay, how do people go? The next 24 hours are absolutely critical. You're Trump endorsed. Where do people go to follow this hour by hour? What do they have to do, and how can they support?
I have a Facebook page, Jay Schroeder for Secretary of State, SCHROEDER. And I also have that's Jay Schroeder for Secretary of State.com. That's my website. Also have a Facebook, the same lingo. So that's where you follow. And you're right, it is hour by hour. So at every one point, there's something else comes up. You can't make this stuff up. But I make a commitment that I'm going to do it. If you know the history of Wisconsin, we had 100,000 people protesting at Act 10. If you know Schroeder's going to be doing a good job cleaning up elections, as I tell people around the state, my goal is to have 30,000 protesters at the Capitol. Then you'll know I'm doing something and cleaning it up.
Jay Schroeder, you're a fighter. I think that's why President Trump endorsed you, and I think that's why MAGA's got your back. Go with God, brother. Godspeed. We'll check in tomorrow.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, sir. I got two other hammers back-to-back, J.R. Majewski, and then I got Tina Peters. J.R., MAGA, as you're seeing folks up there in Ohio, and you got the farmers, you got the city folks, you got the suburban, exurban, you got the whole match up there in your district. Walk through, where's their heads right now in this entire thing? Because I'm seeing conflicting information coming out of Ohio. I got J.D. Vance down. Is MAGA still, is Ohio MAGA territory? And are people concerned up there about these elections, about are their votes going to count? Because we got a mess in Wisconsin. I think we kind of get a mess in Minnesota. I mean, I look at Colorado as a disaster. You got Tina Peters out there being Joan of Arc. They're trying to put her in prison every other day. What's going on in Ohio? And why is J.D. Vance one down on a guy like Tim Ryan, as phony as Tim Ryan is?
I'd like to see the polls on that, Steve. I mean, I think J.D. Vance is doing pretty well. There's some definite concerns with the MAGA candidates because the establishment Republicans don't want to give up their fiefdoms, and they're used to losing in certain areas, and so they're not as actively supporting as you would think they would be. But we're putting up a good fight.
Hang on. Whoa. Are you saying the establishment's not up there? They don't have your back? Are they not working for victory? Because you can win this thing. I'm telling you, everybody. Every time I talk to people up there, they're saying, "Hey, J.R. Majewski got a really good shot of winning here and putting a 30-year apparatchik out to pasture." So, or is the establishment not having your back? Have they not thrown in with you?
I would say at the state level, the establishment Republicans have not come through as I would have expected. But I can say that at the national level, there has been a lot of support from what I would refer to as establishment Republicans. So, it's a hodgepodge. I think this is a pretty unique time, especially in my district, having Marcy being in office for 40 years. So we have, in my opinion, we have ample time to run this through and get everybody on the train. And the more we get exposure on the War Room, the more we get exposure at these Trump rallies, I think the better we are.
Look, let me tell you, I was down at CPAC, and everybody's talking about you. In fact, they're kind of like, why is JR not down there? Everybody, you're a very known entity, and people have your back. What do we need to do on the show? What does this audience need to do to have your back right now? Tell us what you need, and tell people where this is headed and what do you need.
Fundraising. I need to raise money. Marcy Kapner's sitting on almost $2 million. She's ran nearly $750,000 worth of negative ads against me. She's pretending to be a Republican, and she's pretending as if January 6th was actually an insurrection. And it's that's their scheme right now.
She's one of the most left. Hold on. How is she running as a Republican? She's one of the most. Correct me if I'm wrong. Just isn't she one of the most left wing people up there? I mean, she's just this side of the squad, right? Am I wrong in that? Hadn't she had every vote for Pelosi and ever? How could she possibly run as a Republican light? How does that work?
She's saying that she's brought jobs to the community. She's saying that she supports the police. She's saying that she supports the military. I mean, the things that I do. Oh my God. She's taking claim for. She's bringing money to the district that she hasn't brought in 40 years. She's going to parades that she hasn't been to in 30 to 40 years. She's working like a Republican would work. But I mean, honestly, she's being carried by a group of young far left activists. But she's behaving as you would expect a Republican candidate. She's trying to message as a Republican would.
J.R. Majewski, this is one of the most important races in the country for MAGA. It just really is. J.R., what's the social media? How do people get to the site? And how do they sign up to volunteer to assist you or to donate?
J.R. Majewski, the number 4, Congress.com. I'm on all forms of social media, J.R. Majewski for Congress. And we have plenty of opportunity for volunteers, Steve. The last time we were on your show, I think within 2 hours, we had 75 to 80 new volunteers. So keep bringing them because we're out knocking doors every day and we're putting up yard signs every day.
This is how we're going to win. Phone banks, knock on doors, personal, get to know people in the district, and have your surrogates out there. Just walk in the precincts, walk in the districts. JR, one more time. What's your social media? How do people track you on social media?
Social media, same thing. JR Majewski for Congress. Sorry I wasn't at CPAC, but as you saw, the boss man asked me if I could come to Wisconsin, and I went there and I knocked the shit out of that stage. So, Scott, sorry for my language.
No, you absolutely did. It was a great speech. It was a stem winner. The MAGA loves you. Okay, JR, thank you very much. Honored to have you on here.
Thank you, sir.
Tina Peters, the Joan of Arc of the MAGA movement. Tina. Get us up to speed on what's happening. Everybody in CPAC wanted to see you, wanted to know how it was going. Everybody's got your back. So, Tina, tell us what's the latest.
We raised the money that they never thought we could, thanks to you and many others out there, patriots that want to see all of this exposed and the law followed. And Colorado actually has laws, Steve, to test the voting devices. They just don't follow them. So this recount has to be done all over again, what they're supposed to do according to the law. And I know legislators that were in session when this law, the Colorado Revised Statute, when this particular law was created. And basically, prior to any recount, the county is supposed to, through their canvass board, is supposed to randomly select these voting devices, find out what ballots ran through them, just randomly pick one or two or however many. El Paso County picked 7, and then go get the ballots, the actual ballots that were run through those tabulators on election night. That would have been June 28th, and then compare what the machine had tabulated and what the actually the vote count was. They didn't do any of this. And Jenna Griswold and others have put in election rules that totally subvert the law. And so we're real excited. They're going to have to refund the money. We're going to use that for our legal fees. And they have to start this thing. This goes before a judge. So I just need everybody to pray for a righteous judge that's not afraid to follow the law. You know, we've got a lot of judges out there that are choosing purposely not to follow the law. But we're calling on judges to stand up. We're losing our country through selection, not election. And, you know, this is the time. This is the time in their lives when they need to be here and do what God called them to do. And that is they're in a position, they need to rule righteously. And, you know, we knew these laws existed. It just so, you know, it's kind of like a mini recount. And what they did was they did what they call a logic and accuracy test. Well, I've done plenty of logic and accuracy tests in my time as clerk of Mesa County. But this is not what you do. You don't do a logic and accuracy test. Basically, what they did was they ran the same ballots through the same machines all over again, and knowing that it would not yield a different result. And that's not the way the law was written. The law was written to compare a manual recount, kind of a mini recount, pick a tabulator or 2 or 3, find out what ballots went through that particular machine, take those ballots. They're all stored by tabulator. You can identify them that way. Bring them out, run them through the tabulator, see what the machine says, sit down and have the judges and the canvass board do a mini recount. That is what's supposed to do prior to any recount. We haven't had a statewide recount in 27 years, Steve. So what they did, listen to this, you're going to love this one. What they did was they were following the instructions from Dominion. When they would run into a problem, they would call Dominion and say, what do I do? And so basically, it's not for Dominion, it's not for the clerk to run these recounts. It's the canvass board members. It is the Democrat and Republican and the Democrat and Republican judges to run the recount. So now it goes before a judge.
Okay.
Judge
hang on. What are these judges actually looking at? What's the ask? What are you asking the judge to rule on?
To do an actual real recount. And here's the way the law reads. If when they compare what the machine tabulation said on June 28th and the manual recount of those hand-counted ballots from those batches that were run through the randomly selected tabulators, machines, comparing those two, the mini-hand recount and the count that the machine tabulated, if there's any discrepancy whatsoever, then it cannot be run through the machine again to do a recount. It has to be hand counted. And that's what we want. That's what the law says. And you know, we're filing injunctions. We've got lawsuits going. They have disenfranchised. I know that you know that they've given me a price of $236,000, and they've given the local El Paso candidates, theirs was about $10,000 to do their recount in their county. And then they raised it for them. They raised it like another $10,000. They raised it $20,000 for me because of vendor fees. And the vendor is Dominion. So Dominion is actually, it's like having the fox in the hen house. So the law is on our side. We are going in, we're praying for a righteous judge, And he's got a lot of responsibility to do the right thing, because we know the right thing. We
But
know the law.
let's assume we're not going to get a righteous judge. Let's assume we just get a judge. Let's assume we just get a typical standard stock Mark 1 Mod 0 Colorado judge. When do you actually go into court?
Well, this has to happen pretty soon. So there's an injunction coming out. This is one of those, like a temporary restraining order or injunction that tells them to rule on it right away. So this is timely. There's plenty of time to do this before the ballots are printed for the November election. They can't use that as an excuse. But the people in Colorado know what's going on. So for a judge to risk his career and his name to do something dishonest and not follow the actual law, it's going to be a big deal, and everybody's going to see it.
Tina, do me a favor right now. Put up your social media and the website. People want to follow this 24 hours, particularly the folks that gave the money at CPAC. I know Schroeder was there, but people were asking about it all the time. How's Tina? Are we going to do this? Is going to pull off? So let's give you your social media, and let's give the website of how they stay up to speed on this, because you've got the whole country that's kind of on tenterhooks about this thing.
You bet. And this affects the whole country. This is the way we bring the machines down and bring everything back into law and order. It's TinaPetersForColorado.com is my website. We have ColoradoRecount.com, and that has the other candidates on there as well. We've got, our fight is just beginning. We have legal fees. We have to win this for the country. This is one for the win, for everybody to take notice of. And it's Tina Peters 2022 on Getter, on Twitter, and just hang in there with us, folks, because people are using what we're getting here in Colorado, which is Dominion territory, right? All over the country to bring about change, and I'm so excited about it.
Tina, Tina, we got to bounce, and I agree with you. This is the thing, and not, by the way, it's just not the machines. Jenna Griswold, since Katie Hobbs is running for governor, trust me, as bad as in Michigan and all these other places, Jenna Griswold is numero uno, and only Tina Peters can take her on. Tina, thank you so much. Honored to have you on here. Okay, 10 o'clock tomorrow. Oh, you were born ready, Tina Peters. You were born ready. Tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, we're going to be back for a full day's fight. Where? In the War Room.